The NBA Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by EdgeBoost. Bank Gamble for better. Sign up today. EdgeBoost the bet with work at SGPN to get a $25 deposit match bonus. And welcome, everybody, to the NBA Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It is currently Saturday morning, May 17th, around 11 a.m. Eastern Time. I'm Rose episode Scott Reichel, once again joined by Lonte Smith together. We're going to break down the game on Sunday. There are no games today, so we are going to be looking ahead to the game tomorrow. Game 7 between the Nuggets and the Thunder. Some people might think the early NBA Finals. Some people think whoever wins the series should win the whole thing. I'm not going to go that far, because if there's one thing we've seen from this particular postseason, we don't know what to expect. So I'm not going to immediately write off the other teams that are still into the playoffs. The point is, this has been probably the best playoff series, besides maybe the Pistons-Knicks in the first round. But it's been a very entertaining series back and forth. That's why we're in currently a Game 7 situation. Lonte, first of all, my co-host for the show, how's it going with you?
Not bad, man. I couldn't have said it better myself. It's been a good playoffs in general. But I wouldn't necessarily crown the winner of this specific series, knowing that Minnesota does not really. I mean, they play hard. They match. They don't match up well with OKC. I will say that, but. Yeah, I think it'll be a battle regardless.
They do against Denver. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, they do. But yeah, it'll be a battle, man, with the way Finch coaches and adjusts from game to game. Also, some in-game stuff. I wouldn't necessarily crown them. So I agree with you 100%. But yeah, man, doing good. Ready for Game 7.
Yeah, question. Scale from 1 to 10. How strongly are the Timberwolves rooting for the Nuggets in Game 7?
20.
20? Okay.
Yeah, especially with the Gordon news. I know we'll get into that, but yeah, for sure.
I think I'd have to agree. 20 might be a bit strong because Ant thinks they'll beat anybody anyway, but I do think Minnesota knows in the back of their minds that they've owned Denver for the last year or so. So I think they're definitely rooting for Denver, not to mention the fact that you're looking at the Thunder, who I think we'd agree, even though they might have been looking underwhelming so far this series, they still won 68 games. Like, if you can eliminate a 68-win team, then you probably want to if you don't have to play them. So that's something to keep in mind. But either way, point is, should be a fun Game 7 taking place on Sunday. Before we get into that, though, we have to quickly get into what happened yesterday, which was the ending of a series and potentially honestly, a dynasty's a stretch. They only won one title. It feels like they should have won more based on the talent they had with Tatum and Brown together with the Celtics core. But either way, point is, we know Tatum, of course, got hurt. Boston survived in Game 5, then got destroyed in Game 6. That game was over very quickly because Boston lost by a casual 38 points. They got run out of the building as soon as the game started, down 6 after a quarter, then got outscored by 21 in the second quarter. Down 27 at half in an elimination game, and it didn't get any better in the second half. The Knicks won every quarter by at least 3 points, so something to keep in mind there. Jaylen Brown fouled out in the third quarter. PJ Tucker got minutes. It was a mess for Boston, but I'll ask where you want to start because it felt like everything went right for the Knicks and everything went wrong for Boston.
We can start with the Knicks. Just congrats to them on a great series, and they didn't particularly play well. I talked about it on the podcast yesterday that I thought this would be their most complete game, and I thought it was from start to finish. Regardless of the circumstances, they still came out, and 38 points is a dominant effort from start to finish. And this is, like I said, this is the first game where they weren't, climbing uphill. They were going and hunting and making the Boston Celtics. They're adding pressure to the Boston Celtics. So, I mean, credit to them. I thought that was really a really, really good performance, something to build on. So, first off, just credit to them and the way they played. Celtics side, I mean, it kind of is like a tale of a tale of what ifs, I guess, with the Tatum injury and then the blown leads and different things like that. But I think they're going into the offseason completely different than what they expected, whether that be, not a championship, but having Tatum versus not having a championship and not having Tatum for probably all of next year. Mm-hmm. They got a lot of choices to make, a lot of decisions to make, and it's not going to be easy. Obviously, with the big luxury tax being put on new ownership, so I'm intrigued by what they do. Now, what my idea of what they do would be probably try to package something and get a higher draft pick, maybe a couple of extra players to be at least somewhat competitive and just they got to get some kind of interior force because they just don't have that right now.
Yes, but there is one thing that you forgot to account for.
What's that?
Bing bong.
Oh,
you forgot to account for the power of the Bing Bong over there in MSG on Friday. Yeah, I do think at the end of the day there are a couple of important decisions you have to make. A lot of it comes down to, I'd say, the timetable for Tatum, but you also have the apron system. A lot of people owed a lot of money. So I do want to ask you, I'll play a little bit of a game here. I want to ask you if you think this player just played his last game with the Celtics. So I want you to give me a yes or no answer for these guys. So Tatum's going to be on Boston, obviously. If there's one guy you're going to pick Tatum. So I'll ask you about Jaylen Brown. Was that the last game that he's played with the Celtics?
No.
Okay, so I agree with you.
Yeah.
Derek White.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to disagree with you about Derek White. I think Derek White would be the one role player you'd probably want to keep. I think that he's the best role player they have.
I agree with that. Yeah.
I'd say Drew Holiday, I think, is probably done, but the problem is his contract's not great. So you have to wonder if anybody will actually want to acquire him. Or you'll have to attach some picks maybe to actually get rid of him. So that's something.
I think Drew might retire.
He could retire. We'll see. Yeah. I don't know if he's at that point.
Well, according to Jeff Teague, who they played together, he told the story maybe like a week ago. He was going to retire after the Bucks won, but they gave him an extension. So he kind of just like, oh, okay, well, but he was going to retire. I mean, he took that brief stint off to help his wife who had a brain tumor or something like that. Yeah. So like he stepped away from the game, and then so I think it's a possibility that he could kind of retire. I think it's more so like 60-40 that he like plays versus retiring, but I think it's higher than 20%.
I wasn't sure if he would retire mid-contract or he would play out the contract and then move on.
What has he got, 2 years left?
I believe so. That's why I wasn't sure if he would retire. I mean, then again, when you're an NBA player who's been around for a long time, the money's really never an issue because you already have hundreds of $1 million in the bank. So in theory, he could leave early. But I figured with the extension, I thought he would play it out. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's it. I was just thinking out loud. But yeah, I agree with you with Drew.
He actually is 2 years and then an option. He's getting 32 next year, 34 the year after, and then he has a player option for 37. So he actually is under contract technically, including the option from 2027 to 2028. So I think he might play with that because that's like $100 million left over.
That 37 and
that's
that 37 option. Yeah.
And I don't think you can get rid of him because he's up there in years, and I don't think he's that good anymore, to be honest. So.
Well, I'm sure somebody will take him as a veteran. Like, I mean,
I know somebody would. I'm just saying, I don't know if, like, based on that contract, if a team would be willing to actually trade for him. That's a very expensive veteran piece.
Yeah, it is. So, unless you're a team like Memphis who can kind of put a third team in there and, stretch some of that money. But, yeah, I agree with you, though. I agree with you.
Yeah, so anyway, I'm going to say Drew Holiday, yes.
Yep.
Just because I think the contract is too much to move. I think Porzingis is done.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And then you have to pretty much ask yourself, out of all the other guys, potential role players, etc., anybody else that's going to be kept around. I'm trying to think of what the move is for Boston to like try to get some assets back. Do you trade Pritchard? Like I don't know.
Yeah,
you're kind of you're really stuck here.
Yeah,
Horford might retire. Horford's the guy who might retire. So we'll see what happens. But it definitely imploded very quickly for Boston. So.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting for sure because they got a lot of decisions to make. Now, Jaylen Brown offers obviously the most upside in what you can get for picks wise and value wise. And if you can package him with Derek White, Porzingis, then you can probably get a haul of picks. We saw Brad Stevens work wonders. And I mean Ainge also in the front office. Their front office is really good. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them do some things that we're not even thinking of, depending upon what the players want to do.
Yeah, I still think they're going to keep Brown. It's going to sound difficult with him being out, but I think you kind of have to. Brown is still a Finals MVP, still an All-NBA caliber guy almost every year. And even though he does have his flaws, we're aware of them. He's still a solid basketball player.
Two-way player, too. Yeah.
You can make an argument that he's a top 20 guy in the league.
I think that's fair.
So if you trade Brown, you basically admit to a rebuild. And I don't think Boston's going to do that.
Well, it kind of just depends on what you get for, it kind of just depends because you can trade him to get. I mean, I don't want to play
You might get a bunch of picks, but at that point, you have Tatum who's out for the year, and you're basically punting next season and starting from scratch with Tatum. Like, I don't know if they're going to do that.
Yeah, I doubt they do it. I doubt they do it either. But yeah, it's there though. I mean, they're gonna. I've read that they were talking to Flag, so I don't know how. Obviously, Nico said he's not gonna move the pick, but I think they'll be aggressive in the draft this year.
So you think a potential Jaylen Brown trade for Cooper Flag's on the table?
I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to it.
I'm just throwing that idea out there because they did interview Cooper Flag. Now, you could argue that, if you're an NBA team and you have a chance to, why would you not at least try to interview a guy just for the hell of it? But that would be the only way they'd probably end up having a shot at getting him.
Yeah, I mean, they got assets to do it. They got a trove of assets, to be honest. I mean, but again, still, even if you think Flag is going to be like this all NBA level performer, he still has not proven it. And he'll get the developmental piece there in Boston. He's close to home. He's from Maine, so
yeah.
Big Celtics fan. I think that was widely put out whenever the interview came out. I mean, the interview was talked about. So yeah, I mean, it's possible. I mean, I think they'll be aggressive here because again, we've seen these Achilles injuries happen to players, but I think Tatum may be the youngest guy that is kind of happened to, right? I mean, KD older, Kyrie older.
Out of all the superstars, I would
that's
say
what I mean.
Probably.
Yeah, he's the youngest.
I'd have to actually think about that.
Yeah, but I mean, just off the top of your head, obviously Kobe older, KD older, Kyrie older.
Dame happened to. He's a lot older.
Yeah, older. Like, so I think he's got a decent shot. I mean, KD looked good. I mean, he's older, but he was still playing at a, all-star, all NBA type of level. So I think Tatum will bounce back and be fine. But like I said, man, they got a lot of decisions to make, and I mean, we could probably do a whole podcast on this, but I'll leave that to Bill Simmons and Brian Russillo.
Well, it's the last time we're talking about the Celtics. That's why I thought we can kind of go all out here. But for the record, I'm not saying Dallas would trade Cooper Flag. The point is Boston chose to interview him, which I find interesting because they have no chance at actually getting him unless they trade the entire core, basically. That's kind of why I thought that news piece was fascinating. But I do agree. I don't think they're going to get him.
But if you're Nico and I call you and say, hey, I got our pick this year, our pick next year, Jaylen Brown, Derek White, Peyton Pritchard, what do you say?
I don't think the picks matter because I'm thinking of what Dallas is trying to do, the direction they're headed. They have Kyrie off a serious injury. They have AD, who's also, up, I'd say, not really up there in years, but the fact is he's definitely a veteran at this point. They have Clay's corpse. You have a lot of older guys. I don't think the draft picks really help you.
Yeah.
You have no draft picks until, I don't even know when the next time they own their own draft pick is. But the point is they are very built now to win. And
right. Which Jaylen helps that.
The point is, yes, but on the other hand, though, I don't think the picks are that important because I think you're asking for potential trade packages. He's linked to Giannis potentially. There are other superstars right now, I think, that can help Dallas in a more win-now mode than Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown would help, but I think that if you're asking what I think Dallas's dream scenario is, I think it's Giannis.
I don't know if that's going to work.
I don't know if it's going to work either, but if you're asking who I think would be used as a potential, I'd say, holy grail, guy to get for Cooper Flag, I don't know if Jaylen Brown's good enough. It's not even I don't even mean it in a harsh way to Jaylen Brown, but you're getting what people view as being a generational talent to Cooper Flag. I'm not going to go that far, but some people feel that way about him. I don't think Jaylen Brown's good enough to, I'd say, be the focal point of a trade package to get Flag. I think it would have to be a top 10 guy in the league. And you're looking at Giannis being the main guy. I don't want to turn this into a full Mavericks thing, but I do think that if you're asking who I think Dallas would, in theory, trade Flag for, I think it's Giannis on a short list and really not many other guys that I think are available on the market because I think that they're just going to keep Flag if they can, but I think the only exception would be Giannis. That would be how I would go about it. I'm not saying Giannis would go there too, but I do think Milwaukee, if you're talking about what they could in theory do to turn a new leaf to start over, I think trading Giannis for Flag makes some sense.
Yeah, so let me one last thing before we move on. So if you're Giannis and you had to choose between, just regardless of the package for either team, if you had to choose between the two Texas teams, Dallas and Houston, where would you go?
That's actually a very difficult question. Because Houston's got so much young talent, but I'm trying to think of who they would have to get rid of in order to get Giannis. Because Milwaukee does not have as much leverage as people think.
They don't. No, they don't have any.
They really don't.
Because he wants to leave.
I mean, Kyrie. I don't know if Kyrie's gonna be the same guy post injury. AD's never healthy. You know what? I might surprise you. I'll go Houston.
Yeah, I would say Houston as well.
I'll go Houston there, but it comes down to Giannis where he wants to go. By the way, Andre is saying that Giannis doesn't want to go to Texas. I will point out there that no income tax is a very big deal when you're making hundreds of millions of dollars. I'm just going to throw that out there. That is definitely a
I mean, he might not want to go anywhere. He might not want to go anywhere. Just scenario wise, it is floated out there that he's exploring options. So I mean,
yeah, I don't know. Seriously, is but I think those are teams that are in consideration for that. So
I mean, if I was the Bucks, I would trade him.
I would too, but I don't think Milwaukee's going to be relevant for a while anyway.
They can't do anything. They don't have a good roster. They're stuck with the Dame money, and they can't trade him because they can, but no value because he's injured. Like
you can't do him flip anymore.
Like they don't have. I mean, at best because of Giannis playing.
Giannis will always make them a play-in or play-off candidate because these conference should be pretty weak, if we're being honest here. So I do think Milwaukee would be a playoff team. But I think that they would be a one-and-done or, in theory, ceiling two-and-done team. But they're never going to compete for anything anymore.
Yeah.
And they really haven't since they won the title.
Yeah.
So there you go. But we'll see what happens. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up, though, for the recap there. Not going to get into any other Celtics discussions because we'll save that for the offseason. They're done. So enjoy Cancun. We're not going to bother talking about them again. But point is, nice job of the Knicks getting to their first conference finals since 2000. So, been a long time. A lot of people outside the Garden who were partying last night, and we'll see if they are going to get revenge against the Pacers for last year or if they'll lose to them again. Either way, that series does start on Wednesday. Anyway, time to move on to the main event here for the show, the Game 7 breakdown between the Nuggets and the Thunder. Before getting into that, a reminder that we do have a great discount code right now on the merch store because we are using the promo code DGens for 20% off everything on the merch store because DGens, a line of gear, is now live on the merch store. And once again, use the code DGens for 20% off everything on the merch store. If you want to get yourself some NBA Gambling Podcast gear, you can do so with a nice 20% off discount. Plus, a reminder, we're brought to you by EdgeBooks. They're the first banking company for bettors, ensuring that all gambling transactions are approved. They have no usage fees, no minimum balance, earn cash rewards, 100% approval. For all banking deposits on today, EdgeBooks.bet with the promo code SGPN, deposit $25 at match deposit, EdgeBooks.bet promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy because they just launched their new game mode ladder, up to 500 times your entry by watching your favorite players climb the ladder. Also use the promo code NBASGPN, a special pick and a first-time deposit offer up to $1K. Bonus cash on fantasy promo code NBASGPN. Welcome back, everyone, to the NBA Gambling Podcast. Finish recapping the Boston humiliation that we ended up seeing on Friday night. Time to move on into Game 7 between the Nuggets and the Thunder. Thunder are laying 8.5 in this game. It was 7.5. Then Aaron Gordon news happened, and the line moved to 8.5. Over-unders at 213.5. Now, Denver has about 5.5 guys. Now it might be 5.25 guys because Gordon has a bad hamstring. I'm assuming he's going to play because it might be the final game of the season. Can he move? We don't know, but he's going to try to play most likely. So Nuggets have a very limited amount of, I'd say, reliable options on the team, and some of them with Gordon and with MPJ are severely injured, but the show must go on. As for the Thunder, they're basically fully healthy. The question is who will actually show up for this game. Now, I do want to recap what happened quickly for Game 6, because I feel like we got to mention this for context. So, the Thunder had a chance to win the series. They were up at half. Then Shea fouled about 70 feet from the basket, picking up his fourth foul in the first half. He got pulled. Nuggets went on a run, stole momentum, and dominated the second half. They outscored the Thunder by about 15 in the second half. Now, for the game, Shea was actually really good besides the fouls. He had 32 points. Chet, though, at 19 and 11. The main issue, though, was Jalen Williams, who was horrific. I know he had 10 assists and 7 rebounds. He was 3 of 16. Couldn't hit a shot, and it was really just the story of the game because the Thunder felt like they got some good contributions from other guys, but Jalen Williams was that bad. J-Dub was really bad. And Denver had 4 of their 5 starters score 10-plus points. 3 of their 5 starters scored 23-plus points. Christian Brown at 23 and 11. He was great. Murray had 25, 8, and 7 on a flu game. And Joker had Joker stats. He had 29 at 14 and 8. And he was also 9 of 14 from the floor. So I'm going to ask you, because Aaron Gordon didn't really do much in the game anyway before the injury. He had 5.7 rebounds, 7 assists, but they were able to win the game. It was the Julian Strawther game who had 15 points off the bench. I'm going to ask you, though, because my main takeaway, of course, was how bad Jalen Williams was. But I'll ask you what your thoughts were for Game 6.
Yeah, I thought that the Thunder reached a point where they were going to win a really tough game in a really tough environment, similar to what Minnesota did last year when they pushed the lead to, I think, like 12-13 in that second quarter. And then they kind of imploded because, like, Shea goes to the bench with the foul trouble. They miss, like, layups, and they lead to, like, 3-point plays. They fouled a bunch. I think they fouled Murray on a 4-point attempt, if I'm not mistaken, a 4-point play, if I'm not mistaken. But overall, I mean, I thought the Nuggets played at a higher level, sense of urgency, which you can't really measure desperation. And I thought that OKC matched that initially, but then once they cut that lead to 3, and it was tied before Dort hit that 3 to go into the half.
Momentum was completely
and then they came out in the third quarter and they didn't have it. Strawther came in, gave him good minutes. I thought Peyton Watson was really good defensively, but I mean, Brown was good as well. But I mean, to me, I felt like it was just a Nuggets, a really good Nuggets win. And despite how well they played, until late, I thought, J-Dub missed a dunk to, I think, I cut it to like 7, and they were still right there until they kind of just let go of the rope. But yeah, I think Daigneault didn't really coach the best game, and he hasn't been coaching the best, like, from an in-game perspective. But yeah, I don't look at it as like a failure of a game for OKC. I just thought that the Nuggets played with a lot of force. They got a lot of timely contributions that you get from role players at home. I mean, nobody had Charlotte getting 5, let alone 15 points. So I think it's just a really good game by Denver, probably their second best game that they played, and I don't know how well they can carry that over into Game 7.
Yeah, I do think at the end of the day, when you're looking at Daigneault this series, I think he's been terrible more often than not. However, I do wonder, if you were doing the blame game, how much is on the coach and how much of it is an inexperienced team just struggling with the moment? Because Jalen Williams has been getting good looks. It feels like he just can't hit a shot more often than not. You're looking at Chet, who I think has been underwhelming for most of the series. He had a good stats game in Game 6. I don't remember much of what he did, but he ended up having a double-double in that game. But Daigneault, I will give a pass to for Game 6 because Shea fouled 70 feet from the basket. When your best player has 4 fouls in the first half on a really dumb foul, like a Jaren Jackson Jr. caliber foul, 70 feet from the basket. Karl-Anthony Towns. I don't know what the head coach is supposed to do there. You just assume that the MVP of the league would know, listen, the one thing you can't do is foul. And at that point, you play Shea for the first couple minutes of the second half. Then you have to bench him because you don't want him to pick up his 5th before the fourth quarter. And Denver goes on a serious run. So I'm not saying that you're looking at Daigneault being I'd say a great coach throughout the series. I think he's been bad in a bunch of games. But I do think for Game 6, I will blame that mostly on Jalen Williams being terrible and Shea picking up that foul at the end of the first half, because that changed the entire, I'd say, rotations that Daigneault wanted to use. So that kind of threw a wrench into the game plan. They might have lost anyway, but I do think that Daigneault I'll give a pass to in Game 6, because that Shea 4th foul really changed the entire game, as far as I'm concerned. So Denver, though, came through, won Game 6. We have a Game 7 now, and that's going to segue us, though, into the Game 7, once again, discussion. I do want to ask you, though, because I know Aaron Gordon is probably going to play. His hamstring might be shot. We'll see what happens, but either way. For this game, 8.5 feels like a lot. I get Denver's running out of bodies, both figuratively and literally, because they are really just throwing out whoever they can at this point. I do want to ask you, do you think 8.5 is too many points? Because at first glance, I understand that the Thunder are better, at least in terms of depth. They have more guys they can throw out there compared to Denver. Having said that, the Thunder have only covered the spread one time, and that was the Game 2 blowout. Denver's found a way to keep this close, and OKC's half-court offense has been abysmal for pretty much the entire series. I'm taking the points. 8.5 feels way too many. I think Denver can, in theory, win this game because the Thunder's offense has been that bad that this game might be a rock fight, and there's a chance that first team to 100 wins this game. I'm going Denver plus the 8.5, even though Gordon has been a key piece, and now he's injured too. But I'm hoping that Joker and Murray, off of 2 days off, should each play 45-plus minutes. You throw all caution to the wind, and you find a way to win it, potentially win a Game 7, but at least keep the game close. I'm going Denver plus the points. What are your thoughts on the spread?
Yeah, so I think it's short. To be honest, I thought it was short even if Aaron Gordon was 100% healthy. I mean, they were 10 and a half throughout. So game 1, 2, and 5, they were 10 floating in between 10 and 10 and a half. So just numbers wise, not a ton has changed to me. I mean, I thought, the Nuggets played, a great game, but the Thunder were in control of that game for the first half, and they were kind of going back and forth in that third quarter, and then kind of Julian Strawther just exploded, and they didn't have an answer with the foul trouble and so forth and so on. And this is with Jalen Williams not playing his best or nearly his best. This is with, the foul trouble of Shea and him being a little bit inefficient. So to me, I thought it should be closer to like 10 and a half. And then now you have the Aaron Gordon issue, and we know how we saw firsthand what a hamstring can do with the Steph Curry thing. And Aaron Gordon relies a lot on his defensive versatility. He's in a dunker spot, relies on his athleticism. So, I mean, even him at less than 100, anything less than 100% from him is troubling. I think the one thing I harped on for the Thunder is their ball movement and their pace. I thought that Dagnall was playing with extreme pace early on in that game, and they were having success with that zone, beating that zone up the floor, and he kind of just got away from it. Shea was kind of walking the ball up and allowing them to set the defense, and then they had success. But again, once you get enough stops and the Nuggets can get out in transition, a lot of they were careless with the ball early on. Shea was throwing the ball away. They had several turnovers in that zone that I don't think that they'll have in this specific game at home, and that was on the road. I don't really believe in Strawther to have that good of a game again. I don't really trust Porter at all. And then you're talking about Gordon to give that kind of to give that consistent performance. He's been the most consistent player outside of Joker, probably in the playoff in for this team in the playoffs. So, I mean, if you take him away and he's big on the backside of that zone, rotating, that's huge. And if they have to go to man at some point, how effective can he move laterally? So I like the Thunder. I think the Thunder win pretty convincingly. I honestly think that it'll probably be kind of like a repeat of what happened in game 2.
Yeah, so look, the only thing that I do want to point out, which does suck, the amount of competitive game 7s we've had over the last couple of years has been non-existent. A lot of these game 7s have been awful.
Yeah.
And I actually did the research when the Nuggets blew out the Clippers. And I'm trying to remember the exact number. I want to say 9 of the last 10 have been decided by 9+ points or something. I forgot the exact number. I researched it. It's on my Twitter somewhere. But I looked it up. A lot of these game 7s are actually quite underwhelming, and you tend to see some blowouts. Now, I'm not saying that the Thunder are going to blow out the Nuggets, because I did pick Denver plus the points. And I get your angle. The problem that I have with OKC, and the fact is that I keep trying to maybe convince myself from what I saw in the regular season that OKC is a much better team because they're deeper. They have the MVP. I watched them play all season and win a ton of games. But yet, as the series goes on, yes, I know Gordon's been a big piece, a big reason why the series has gone 7 because of the game-winning shot he had in game 1. These teams are very close. And I feel like I'm just looking at a very young OKC team that just doesn't have this. I don't know if it's a mental aspect of it or maybe they're just not as good as I thought they were, but they just don't have the ability to blow out this allegedly inferior team as often as they should. And no matter what you expect from a game-in, game-out basis on paper, these games have always been close, besides game 2. Denver has hung around, and they've been able to really frustrate OKC. They're playing that zone defense, and they're daring other guys to hit shots. And we saw this against Dallas last year. I think everybody thought OKC was a better team than Dallas last season, and Dallas won because they had a couple of guys step up, most notably PJ Washington, of course, but they zoned up, they dared other guys to hit shots, and Jalen Williams can't hit shots. So I feel like it comes down to if I actually trust OKC supporting cast to make shots throughout the game. And I really don't. I don't trust Jalen Williams to have a great game. I don't trust Chet to have a great game. There have been so many questions entering the playoffs on OKC's number 2 and number 3 guys. And I feel like we've gotten zero answers to any of those questions because I still don't trust J-Dub. I still don't trust Chet. And at that point, if you're able to somewhat limit Shea, do you feel good about the supporting cast putting together 70-plus points in a game?
Well, I feel better about them than I do Denver. Like, despite everything saying being true, I mean, I would say OKC has pretty much been the inferior team for the most of the series.
And that's a problem because they're so much deeper than Denver. But I get what you're saying, though. The roster is still deeper, but you're looking at who I would trust more in either crunch time or in an elimination game. First of all, I trust the team that has experience in Game 7s, whether it involves the Clippers about a couple weeks ago or even just in years past. Or if you're asking who I would trust more between Joker and Murray with Shea and J-Dub, I'm taking Joker and Murray, and I'm not hesitating at all. So I do think, based on what I think will be a very low-scoring game, I like the under in this game. I think Joker and Murray can combine for 60. Maybe even more than that. There is a world where that happens. Do I think that Shea and J-Dub, I know you have Chet as well who can also contribute, but how many points do you think you need from those 3 guys if you want to win this game? Do you need like 70?
Well, from Chet, J-Dub, and SGA?
Yeah, 65, 70?
Honestly, I don't think Chet has to be a scorer. I think J-Dub has to be, and he's been lined at about 19, 20. He's only had one good game when he had that 30-point game that they should have won. I would say they can win with like 60, 30, 32 from Shea. You can get, J-Dub doesn't have to be like a 20-plus point. 15 to 17 is a good range. So if you get 15 to 17, play a good floor game, and Chet is really good defensively, I can understand the Chet discourse, but I thought it's a tough matchup for him, obviously. But he can't. His shot selection has been a bit shaky at times. He's been a little bit reliant on the 3. But I mean, I thought he's been okay. Could he be a little bit better defensively? Could he be a little bit better with his shot selection? Yes. But again, I think about 65-ish. They can win with 65-ish.
Yeah, I think they can too. The problem is I don't think they get to 65 because I don't trust Chet. I don't trust J-Dub at all. You could argue J-Dub's in line for a better game. His point total is at 19.5. We'll get into props in a second. But I don't know if I trust any of these guys for OKC. I feel like the second most trustworthy guy on this roster, which is a problem, is Alex Caruso throughout this series. No offense to Caruso. That is not a good sign for your team when he was a bench player for most of the season and he's your second most consistent player. That's not good when you've won that many games and you're projected to blow this team out in Game 7. I got problems with the Thunder performance this series, and I'll put it this way. It is not a fluky 7-game series. Denver earned 3 games. OKC earned 3 games. And now we have a winner-take-all. Yes, the Gordon injury is annoying and extremely, I'd say, concerning if you're a Nuggets fan who does acknowledge the lack of depth this team possesses. But OKC supporting cast, kind of like a repeat of last year. We've been waiting for some of these guys to step up, these young up-and-coming potential stars in the league. And Chet and J-Dub, for the second straight year, have been very underwhelming in a playoff series. And I think that's the problem I have. Do I actually think J-Dub and Chet step up in a Game 7? I don't. So I'm picking Denver to keep this game close. If you like J-Dub and Chet, I think you're right. I think if they play well, OKC wins this game by 15. But I don't think they're going to play well. So that's why I'm going for Denver in this game.
Yeah,
I'll ask you about the total, though. We know Game 7 unders tend to be a thing.
Mm-hmm.
It was not a thing against the Clippers because the Clippers didn't guard anybody in the entire, I'd say, final 3 quarters of that game. I like the under in this game. I think that this game has to be ugly if Denver wants to win, especially with Gordon being injured. I don't see how you're supposed to go up and down and try to outpace the Thunder when the Thunder's half-court offense has been one of the biggest reasons why you have won 3 games in the series, because their half-court offense sucks.
That zone.
The zone's been
kill,
great.
They in man-to-man, they can't, like, you saw in certain spots when they weren't able to get back in that zone. OKC was getting down. Shea was getting downhill. J-Dub was getting downhill. The ball was moving from side to side. And it was just, they just can't defend. They're just too athletic, too young. They're too good. So I thought that Dagnall made a huge mistake in limiting those possessions in transition. Denver was doing a good job of not crashing the offensive glass and basically
they prioritized retreating and trying to actually help with their transition defense, which I thought was smart.
Yeah, but again, Denver was getting out in transition in that last game by a lot of those turnovers that OKC has. And OKC is one of the best at turning teams over and protecting the ball. They didn't do that in Game 6, and I think Dagnall should have been pushing the pace to try to, because they're only going to play 5-6 guys max, and now you have even 5.5, 6.5 guys that are going to play. So I want Denver to run. I want OKC to run Denver until they can't anymore, even off makes, misses. You want to play a Pacer style. So I think it's correlated. If you like the Nuggets, you like under. If you like OKC, you like over.
Yeah, so I'm assuming you're on the over.
Yeah,
in this game?
I like over. Yeah.
Yeah, I do think, once again, if Denver's going to win this game, which I think is definitely a possibility, I'm giving them more of a shot than you are. Neither team might reach 100 points. Like, this game might be disgusting. It would not shock me if it ended up being like a 95-93 game with like a minute to go. And at that point, you're just trying to survive at the end. You might get one really ugly quarter. You might get one quarter with like less than 40 points in it. That would not shock me. It might not be 25 points in a quarter bad, like we saw a couple games ago.
Yeah,
but I think it's going to be one ugly quarter that kills the total. So I like the under in this game, but I think it is correlated with Denver. I do want to ask you, though, about the actual props for this matchup, because there are some interesting options, because it might come down to which role player or which, I'd say, semi-star, maybe if you want to back Shea or Joker. You're picking some guys to step up in this spot. I'm going with the Jamal Murray PRA in this actual matchup. It's 30.5. I like it quite a bit. Now Gordon's banged up, so you might get even more usage from Murray. But Murray's had at least 35 PRA in 2 straight. He's played at least 41 minutes in 4 straight games. He'll probably play north of 43 in this game. I think 30.5 is too low. It's at minus 112. I like the over on that for usage alone. I am going to go with J-Dub. I'm going to go with his under 19.5 points. I think I have to. He's been so bad in the series. He had one great game. He's had less than 19 points in 5 of the first 6 games. And since that 30-plus point outburst, the last 3 games, he's averaging roughly 11 points per game on 23% field goal and 14% from 3. He has been awful. And I feel like maybe he steps up. I'll dare him to step up. I think he's been really bad. So give me J-Dub under on his 19.5 points. You have any props you want to share?
Yeah, I don't see the prop that I want. I think Isaiah Joe's going to play a bigger part in this game, especially if they're going to go into that zone. So I think Dagnall should probably utilize the shooting lineup of Isaiah Joe, Cason Wallace, with SGA, Chet, and Caruso. So you just go completely small and shoot them out of the zone as much as you can.
For the record, I think Joe might be a lost cause at this point. I think it would be Dort at this point, because Dort's actually been okay the last couple of games.
Yeah, maybe. But I think just his shooting ability at home, I think you can get a jolt from it, hit a few threes. But it's not listed. So I'm gonna go with Cason Wallace. I like his over 5.5. That's at even money, or like 105. You can get 105. I think Cason Wallace is going to see a ton of minutes. They're going to rotate him and Dort on Jamal Murray. And Cason Wallace does a good job defensively. He actually picks up full court. Dort is more of the half court kind of defender, but Cason Wallace really pressures the ball at the point of attack, which makes it tiresome for Jamal Murray late getting into the offense. But they countered that, which Adam did a good job of just not allowing Murray to dribble the ball up the court when Case's in the game. Or sometimes Dort might do it as well. But yeah, I like Case and Wallace over 5.5. I also like I'm going with Chet to have a pretty good game here. I'm going with his points and rebounds over. That is at where is it? What points and rebounds at? Jesus.
You said for Chet, right?
Chet, yeah. I see.
I found points and rebounds at 24.5.
Yeah.
Minus 105.
Yeah, I like that as well. I think he has to have one of those type of games, and he's been rebounding the ball pretty well. It's just that I don't like the shot selection. I don't like him not being as aggressive and kind of settling for those jump shots in that zone. I think he's better suited to be in the dunker spot where he can receive those lobs, and you put Isaiah Hartenstein at the top. And you saw a couple of times they got lobs from both sides. He's really good in the short roll game as well. I think Chet has a really good game. So over 24.5. Those are my 3 favorite ones.
Yeah, I think if I was going to throw another one, I do love this prop. It is going to be Christian Braun. Even before the Gordon injury, I love his rebounds. At 6.5, plus 120. He's at 7+ rebounds in 4 of the first 6 games, and he played 39 minutes in 4 straight. Braun was amazing in the last game. I know that it was called the Strawther game, but I don't think people realize just how good Christian Braun actually was until you look at the stats. Because a lot of people probably don't remember that he had 23 points and 11 rebounds. He had a double-double in an elimination game. I think the rebounds are definitely worth something for Braun. If Gordon's going to have less overall lift and explosiveness, that would open the door, hypothetically, for more rebounds, more glass crashing into this game. I like the Braun rebounds at plus 120. I think a double-double is actually potentially on the card for Braun. I think his rebounds could be a serious potential angle for this game. Porter Jr. is banged up. He's going to play a decent amount of minutes. Gordon's banged up. He has to play a decent amount of minutes. 6.5 rebounds, though. The price did plummet. Now it's all like minus 105. I still like it. I think he's got a shot at potentially getting to 10 in this game. His double-double is at 6-1. I think it's a great price at 6-1. I'll make a case for Braun to have a solid rebounding game. So give me Christian Braun on his rebounds at 6.5. I'll go with the over on that one. Anything else you want to add for this game?
No, that's it. I think we pretty much covered it.
Cool. Once again, though, it's going to wrap it up for the breakdown of Game 7 on Sunday. Once again, game's not today. Game is on Sunday between the Nuggets and the Thunder. Before we get into the lock and dog plays and the underdog entry, reminder that we are brought to you by our sponsor, Rhythm, because they are the home of AI-backed picks and props available for the NBA playoffs, the MLB prop market, WNBA as well. Building your model is very simple and easy to do if you want to build one yourself. Also try it out for free for a week by using their 7-day free trial. When you sign up, though, for your account, you can get 2 discount codes. 20% off the monthly subscription with promo code SGPN25. You get half off of the annual subscription with the promo code SGPN50. Once again, that's Rhythm. Promo code SGPN25 or SGPN50. Sign up for the 7-day free trial by going to sportsgamble.com/RATHMM. We're also brought to you by MyBookie.ag because they're the book of every sport. They have the NBA playoffs. They have the NHL playoffs. Another Game 7 coming up, by the way, for the NHL playoffs on Sunday. You could also get some UFC action in. You can get some tennis action in. You name it. They have props in every game. You could also use it for a ton of occasions. Also use crypto for interest payouts, easy deposits. When you head to MyBookie, though, head to the website and use the promo code SGPN when you sign up for a new account. You get a 110,000 match up to 1K. Terms and conditions apply. MyBookie.ag, promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by Circle Ultimate Fantasy Football Giveaway because Circle Resort and Casino in Las Vegas is giving away the ultimate fantasy football experience for a 12-person league to draft in Vegas and be treated like VIPs for their stay. 2-night stay at the hotel for the entire 12-person league. Hold your draft like Cabana, a stadium swim with a $5,000 food and beverage credit, limited transportation to and from the airport, a welcome party at a Legacy Club as well, and much more. Contest is from May 5th to June 30th. Sign up, though, at the link, sportsgamblingpockets.com, circa sportsgamblingpockets.com/CIRCA. That's sportsgamblingpockets.com/CIRCA. Welcome back, everyone, to the NBA Gambling Podcast. Finished going through Game 7 between the Nuggets and the Thunder. Now it's time for the lock and dog plays. Lonte, let you go first. What's going to be your lock and dog for Game 7?
Yeah, so, I mean, I'm going to lay the 8.5 with OKC. I think it's a good number for OKC of how I perceive the game. I think it gets out of hand, similar to what we saw in Game 2 and in that fourth quarter where they outscored them by 15 points and really put the clamps on them defensively. I think the role players of OKC show up and play well. I don't think that the role players for Denver comes in, and that's going to lead me into my dog, where I'm going to take a 2-game parlay fading the role players under 11.5 points for Aaron Gordon, under 10.5 points for Michael Porter Jr. Probably that together, you get plus 275. Just don't trust him to do anything, especially Aaron Gordon with that hamstring. How limited is he? Is he a liability on the floor where they have to get him off and he can't play a ton of minutes? That's a possibility. Even so, I think he showed the last game that he was somewhat hobbled. I know he's got the extra day off, but hamstrings are something that you don't really play with. So I like the I don't think you want to sacrifice anything happening long term for this specific game in what you have with your core with Denver. So I'm going to take both of those guys under, and it'll get you about plus 275.
Yeah. So for my lock, I think I'm going to go with the classic Game 7 approach. Thought about going with Denver, but Gordon got injured, so now I'm going to kind of hold off on that. I still think Denver's got a shot to win the game, but I do think that the Gordon injury definitely throws a wrinkle into my initial thoughts on this game to some degree, at least based on the possibility of Denver getting blown out. Thought there was no chance of that happening, but now Gordon's banged up, and that's a big deal. So I'm going to go with something else. Give me the under in this game at 213.5. I think even if OKC does dominate, and you are right, Denver might score like 90 points. There's a chance Denver just no-shows the game offensively, kills the total, and you end up getting there. Or OKC once again has an ugly half-court game. The pace is shot. You get one really ugly quarter or so, and the game dies. And it's first team to 100 wins. I see a very low-scoring game here. I like the under. It would not shock me if one of these teams did not reach 100 points, which should go well for the under. Give me the under, 213.5 as my lock for the show. For the dog, I had a couple options. Thought about maybe going for a J-Dub alt points fade, which I could do. Thought about Brown rebounds as well, which I think could be intriguing. Let me just see what the Brown rebounds are for 7.5. That's a great price. But 7's been kind of a key number for Brown, though. But you know what? I might actually go for it anyway. I like the angle a bit. I could go for Murray if I want to go for his PRA. I can go for an alt on that, too. Yeah, you know what? I think I am going to take that approach instead, because I think the usage will be there for Murray. Shout out, though, to the potential angle for Brown 7.5 rebounds. That was like plus 175 or something, if you want to go for that. But I think I am going to go with Murray PRA. I think that Denver, with Gordon being banged up too, they have to, I don't want to say overcommit to Murray and Joker, but they have to get them the ball on every damn possession. They don't have a choice. So I'll go with Murray over 34.5 PRA at plus 152. He's had at least 35 in 3 of the last 4 games. He's going to play a ton of minutes. Denver has 2 days off entering this game, so the illness might work itself out. Murray might end up playing 45, 46 minutes in this game. For usage alone, I'll take it. Give me Murray over the alt PRA. Give me the over 34.5 PRA at plus 152 as my dog on the show. Segueing into the underdog entry for Game 7. We mentioned a couple props already. Are there any you want to recycle?
I mean, pretty much all of them if we can, but yeah, whatever. I'll tell you my favorite one is the one that we both agree on, which is the rebounds for Christian Brown.
Yeah, that's 6.5. I think that the usage alone after that game, he really should play 40. And Gordon's banged up, Porter Jr.'s banged up. You don't have many choices. Like, Brown's gonna have to play a lot of minutes, so I like the Brown rebounds there.
Yeah, I like SGA. I mean, but this is to my game script. I like him higher, 30.5. Is it 30.5? I think he scores 35 plus.
Okay, so just going in order here, though, we said we were going to go with Brown, so I'll mark that down. You said, what else did you want?
SGA. I like SGA points higher.
Okay. I see that at, I believe, 31.5.
Yeah, that's fine. 35 plus, I think he has.
I'm trying to think if I actually want to take Shea for points, because that is a lot of points. Like, I understand it, but... And he did have a great game, I'd say, efficiency-wise in Game 6, but I don't know if I agree with you about the points. That is a high number.
Yeah, I mean, that's just how I perceive the game to go. So that's just game flow.
Did you agree about the Murray PRA, or you weren't a fan of it?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Murray in this game. I don't think he has a good game.
Okay.
What about Caruso threes?
The volume might be there. I mean, he's been hitting them so far this series. I'll ask you about J-Dub, though. Are you picking a good J-Dub game or a bad J-Dub game?
think somewhere in the middle, 15 to 17.
Okay, so we're taking his lower 19.5 points.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
I couldn't believe it was at 19.5, by the way.
Yeah,
It's gone over 1 time this entire series. I couldn't believe it was at 19.5.
Yeah, 15 to 17, max 18, I think. Just because I think Shea's going to have such a good game. And I think the rest of those points kind of filter out between Chet. I can see Hartenstein having a big game on the boards also.
He was in foul trouble early on in the last game.
Exactly.
I'm wondering what OKC is going to do with their defense when it comes to Joker. So I think Hartenstein has to be on the floor. I don't know if I'd want would you consider Hartenstein rebounds maybe? Like, I'm trying to think of what I want to actually go with for Hartenstein. Or we take a role player and we pick a role player to step up.
I mean,
actually, no, what are we doing? We can take Porter Jr. lower.
Yeah, that's fine too.
Take Westbrook lower if you want to. We didn't even mention Westbrook the entire pod.
Yeah, we can go PR for Michael Porter Jr.
We could. I'm curious if he's going to rebound well, though, because he does have a lot of size.
Yeah.
But the points are at 10.5. You want to go for the lower on his points?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. I mean, he had a decent game last game, and he only had 10. So we'll go with Porter Jr. lower on his points as well. So once again, the entry for Underdog for Game 7, we're going to go with Christian Brown higher on his rebounds at 6.5. J-Dub, we're going to go with his lower 19.5 points, and we'll throw in Michael Porter Jr. lower on his points at 10.5. That's going to wrap it up for the Game 7 breakdown. Apologies, we have no other Game 7s, but unfortunately, Bing Bong was too strong, and we did not get a Game 7 there in the Eastern Conference. Now, for the actual series upcoming for the next week or so, I do want to point out that the Timberwolves and the winner of this game, that series will start next week. So we're going to break down the series and the games there later on next week. Do you want to quickly see what day the Western Conference Finals start? Because I know the Eastern Conference Finals do start on Wednesday. So I want to say the Western Conference starts, what does it start, Tuesday?
I think it's Tuesday.
It starts Tuesday. Starts on the 20th. So at some point next week, in theory, we could do an episode Sunday. I don't know if we need one. We could do a series breakdown for Minnesota on Monday. The Knicks series on Tuesday. I mean, we'll throw in some games as well, so we can figure it out. But the point is the series themselves don't start until Tuesday. So just keep that in mind, and we'll figure out some actual schedule there for next week. But either way, Lonte, anything else you want to add?
No, that's it, man. We got some good WNBA talk, so I know you guys are enjoying that.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I had the over in the Valkyries game yesterday, and the Valkyries scored 7 points in the fourth quarter. So that was not fun. The game was flying over, and then the Valkyries forgot how to play offense for the entire fourth quarter. But shout out to Plum with 37 in her first game with the Sparks. Anyway, until next time, find me on Twitter, Reichel Radio. Find him on Twitter at XXLonteXX. Until next time, good luck to all of you.